The film opens in 2003 with a woman named Sonia and her daughter Claire arriving at their mansion. Claire wants to see her father, Henry, but her mother refuses, citing his busy schedule. It turns out Henry works for Minos, an escape room design company. They trap people in those rooms to organize survival games, while the wealthy bet on the winners. Later, Sonia walks into her husband's office and expresses her desire to end the relationship. This shows that they are not on good terms. Henry, who is already frustrated with his work, asks her to take a break and says they'll talk in an hour. As a result, she takes a quick swim before heading to the sauna room. While she was relaxing, the door suddenly locked and the temperature began to rise every few seconds, which freaked her out. Moments later, some riddles appear on the steam door, revealing that her husband is playing a death game with her. Despite her panic, Sonia desperately tries to find her way out of the room. She eventually solves the riddle and discovers a magnet hidden within one of the lava rocks. She uses it to slide open the metal bars that keep the door locked. Sonia manages to slide 2 of them, but her lungs fail while attempting the third, causing her to die inside the sauna. The scene shifts to the present day, and we meet Zoe Davis and Ben Miller, former survivors of an escape room organized by the Minos Corporation. They intend to fly to New York to expose this shadowy organization. On the other hand, we see Claire, who has grown up and now works for Minos. However, this appears to be against her will because she is trapped inside a glass room and forced to construct escape routes for her father. Henry appears to be planning to kill the former survivors. Claire argues with her father, claiming that she understands Zoe because they both have lost their mothers. However, Dad remains steadfast in his decision. Elsewhere, as Ben and Zoe prepare to board a flight, the latter suffers from PTSD from her mother's death in a plane crash a few years ago. This makes her so uncomfortable that she refuses to board the flight at the last minute. Following that, they rent a car and drive there themselves. After hours of driving, the two stop at a hotel to spend the night. At midnight, Ben has a nightmare in which the room shakes and the ceiling slowly collapses. As the situation becomes more intense, he suddenly breaks out in cold sweats. The duo then continues their journey, eventually arriving at the alleged Minos facility in an alleyway. Although there are no signs of the headquarters, Zoe encourages Ben to look around. During this time, they are approached by a local thug who flees after stealing Zoe's necklace, a sentimental item from her mother. They chase the thug through the streets and into a subway station, where they find a train car. However, the thug escapes, trapping them inside. With all hope seemingly lost, the two decide to disembark at the next station and return to the building. Shortly after, Ben and Zoe notice something unusual about the train car, particularly the strange noises. As a result, they check the conductor's station and find no one there. Soon, their train car separates from the rest and is redirected to a remote station with no way to stop it. Zoe and Ben are joined by 4 other passengers: Rachel, Brianna, Nathan, and Theo, all of whom are former escape room survivors. The train comes to a halt, scattering them throughout the vehicle. As they gather, the train becomes electrified, revealing that they are once again caught up in Minos' deadly game. Theo wants to get home for his wife's birthday, so he presses a button on the train in the hopes of getting help. However, he only receives a pre-recorded message. The group splits up to look for clues after realizing they have to play the game in order to survive. Nathan discovers a hidden bag containing a towel and a metal handle, while Brianna uncovers a locked trap door. They quickly discover that in order to escape the conductor's slot machine, they must collect alphabetic tokens first. They also see a sign that reads, "All false advertising must be pulled." In an attempt to figure out what it means, they come across several advertisements that lack certain letters. At this point, Zoe realizes that there are 26 handles, which correspond to the 26 letters of the alphabet. Following that, they pull out the handles for each missing letter, which works. They then start recovering coins from the handles. As the electrification progresses, Theo becomes the first victim, resulting in his tragic death. As the rest of their clues burn, Zoe examines the letters they've gathered and spells out the words, "Welcome back." She then assists the group in retrieving the final few tokens and inserting them into the slot, which eventually opens the trapdoor. Fortunately, they all jump down as the train car becomes engulfed in electric currents. Following this, they find themselves in an elevator that takes them deeper underground. Rachel rushes to open the door to the next room, but the others advise them to remain calm. They then introduce themselves and share their past experiences. Nathan reveals that his escape room group was all priests like him, Brianna's was all influencers, and Rachel's was made up of people who can't feel physical pain. Following a brief conversation, the group heads to a room that turns out to be a bank. Brianna accidentally steps on a tile, which activates a laser system and traps her in place. Fortunately, Rachel and Nathan are there to help her get off the tile. They then notice a vault closing on the other side of the room, indicating their exit. To get there, they must first find the correct pattern in the tiles. With only 10 minutes remaining, the group begins searching for clues. They soon discover a key inside a lollipop, which they try to use in the safety deposit boxes. As they fail miserably, Zoe notices a safety box labeled with Sonia rather than numbers. She opens it and discovers some blank bills with a 4-digit code hidden inside. Nathan enters this code into an ATM, and 4 wall clocks display different times. He then corresponds the clock times to the tiles and tests the route, leaving a trail of lollipops for the group to follow. At one point, he gets lost and steps on the wrong tile, triggering the laser and knocking him to the ground. Brianna and Rachel quickly lift him off the tile and deactivate the lasers. With only 1 minute left, Zoe discovers a chart with the tile's remaining pattern and leads the group to the exit, with Ben carrying Nathan. Zoe makes a last-ditch effort to enter the vault, barely making it. Once inside, the group finds themselves in a cave that quickly begins to collapse. As a result, they rush for the exit and end up in a beach-themed room. They start looking for clues right away and eventually find a metal detector. Using it, they find a reactive spot and begin digging. They quickly unearth an anchor, but before they can remove it, the beach is revealed to be covered in quicksand, which begins to suck Rachel in. Nathan sees this and decides to save her, so he ties a rope around himself and dives into the sand to lift her. The group successfully pulls Rachel out, but the rope snaps before they can rescue Nathan, who is swallowed up by the sand. Despite the tragic loss, they don't have time to mourn, so they grab the anchor and use it as a key to enter a beach hut. Inside, they discover a locked refrigerator that they believe is an exit. While looking for a key, Zoe flips a switch, turning the day into night and activating the lighthouse outside. She then climbs to the top for more clues, while Ben discovers the refrigerator's key inside a mannequin. He quickly hands it over to the women, who open the refrigerator door and find their way out. Meanwhile, Zoe finds another way out by prying open one of the room's decorations. She believes that this will enable them to escape the entire game. As the beach begins to sink, the group disagrees on which course of action to take. Finally, Rachel and Ben head for the lighthouse while Brianna takes the main exit. Rachel climbs to the top, but Ben is unable to climb as the ladder closes, causing him to fall into the quicksand. Zoe is shocked, but Rachel persuades her to keep moving before it's too late. Following this, the two reach a manhole. Zoe, overwhelmed by her friend's death, begins blaming herself. Rachel tries to console her, explaining that it is Minos' fault, not hers. She also reminds her that they must stop Minos if they want to be free indefinitely. This persuades Zoe to continue moving, and the two proceed through the manhole. Soon after, they discover a ladder, allowing them to emerge into the city streets. Although they are initially overjoyed, their joy is short-lived when they come across a panicked Brianna searching for the clue. This reminds them that they are still in the game. Brianna, who has been there for a while, informs them that it rains acid whenever the timer reaches 0, and that they must locate a key to a rolling shutter. They manage to locate the key, but it is insufficient because there are more locked doors. The timer runs out, but a sunshade appears just in time to protect them. Just then, they hear a phone booth ring, but they are unable to enter due to another lock. At the same time, they hear a news broadcast on the store's television, which leads them to the conclusion that they must collect acid water in order to melt the lock. The trio acts accordingly, unlocking the phone booth but hearing nothing. With insufficient clues to proceed, Zoe leaves the booth in search of the next puzzle piece, but the timer runs out. Fortunately, Rachel throws her an umbrella, and the two of them hide in the phone booth. Amidst the acid rain, Zoe notices an advertisement for 3 rings and instructs them to answer the phone on the 3rd ring. They follow her advice, and the taxi door opens, protecting Zoe from the acid. Brianna and Rachel rush to the cab when the rain stops, but the door closes. Worst of all, the phone booth closes, leaving them homeless. They desperately try to find a way in, but with no success. As the timer runs out, Rachel accepts her fate and consoles Brianna. They hold on to each other as the acid rain melts them down. On the other hand, Zoe is transported directly outside Claire's glass room. As Claire begs her for assistance in escaping, Zoe notices the escape room blueprints, which reminds her that she designed them. Infuriated, she yells at her and accuses her of murder. Claire claims that her father forced her to do so. To gain her trust, she shows her footage of Ben still alive, while also revealing that she built a secret extractor tank beneath the quicksand to save him. Unfortunately, the guards track him down and throw him into the final room, the sauna. When Zoe witnesses this, she asks Claire to do something, but the latter insists on getting her out of the room first. They'll need to solve another puzzle first. Claire also informs her that they only have 2 chances before the room's oxygen is cut off. After learning all of this, Zoe assists her in deciphering the puzzle, eventually unlocking the door. But before they can flee, Henry appears and holds them at gunpoint. The situation is tense, and it appears that the girls are going to be killed. But just then, Claire's companion shoots Henry on the shoulder, allowing her to lock him in the glass room. The 2 girls then proceed to the control room to override the sauna room and keep Ben from being burned. After that, Claire hands Zoe her father's car, revealing that her coordinates to the Minos headquarters were correct. She also discusses her decision to contact the police once Zoe has reached a safe distance. When Zoe arrives at the headquarters, the police and paramedics are already present. She goes looking for Ben and discovers him being taken into an ambulance. She tells him that the game is finally over and everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Claire returns to talk to her father. Their conversation reveals that Claire was the one who built the sauna room and murdered her mother in order to impress her father. She is, however, disappointed that he took full credit for it. In the end, she enters the incorrect codes and turns off the oxygen supply in the glass room.